morning, dear students. Today we are going to start our section with the topic adaptive radiation in mammals. So, before starting our main topic, I have decided to give you a basic understanding regarding the geological timescale because relating with that, so many terms are coming in this section. So, whenever we are reading or learning something, we should not have a blind reading or understanding. Instead, we should have a sound understanding. For that, it will be very helpful if I give you a basic idea about the geological time scale. So we can let's go and see the time scales. Just like how a day is divided into hours, then minutes, seconds, like that, the geological time scale itself is divided into several stratas of time. Among that, this eon is the longest time period in geological time scale, and that eon is again divided into eras, and one era is divided into periods, and one period is then divided into epochs, and the smallest and the very short time period in the geological time scale is age. This is a table. As you look through this table, you will get a clear-cut idea about the geological time scale. Here we can see eon, era, period, epoch. To memorize all these things in the order, as you look here, you can see that EE, then P. As we pronounce P, E also coming along with that. So that is the order. Eon, era, period, and epoch. EEP, period, epoch. So that is the order. And this is the means older to younger period. This is the direction. Okay. So which are the eons? Main eons. They are Phanerozoic. That is the most modern eon. Primitive types are primitive eons are Proterozoic, Archean, Hadean. Then that Phanerozoic eon is divided into several eras. Which are those eras? Cenozoic is the most recent one. Mesozoic is there. Paleozoic is the most primitive. And again, these eras are divided into different periods. Quaternary, Neogene, like that. You can just see that because I'm not taking time to read out all the terms. So just understand that each eras are again divided into several periods, and these periods again divided into epochs. Okay, clear? So in this section, we will talk about Mesozoic and Cenozoic eras and some epoch period like Oligocene, Eocene. And during that time, you need to connect your memory with this table. Okay. And here you can see Ka, Ma, and Ga. What is this Ka? There are some units to represent the time scale. Ka means 11.8 years ago. So that is Ka. What is Ma? 66 million years ago. Million. Okay. Then what is Ga? 2.5 billion years ago. Okay, that's all about this table. Okay, then we can start our topic. We are going to understand what is adaptive radiation first. And during the Mesozoic era, we know that era is a time period, means it's a subdivision of eon. Okay. So during that Mesozoic era, and this era is characterized by well-flourished reptiles, reptilian era. Mesozoic era means reptiles are more flourished during that era. Okay. And even though that it is characterized by reptiles, then also that time mammals also present with very few number, and whatever the type of mammals present, At those times, they are all small mammals. They are all small mammals. And by the end of this Mesozoic era, that means during the Cretaceous period, that period onwards started the demarcation between placental mammals and marsupial mammals. Okay, so when that demarcation started, when onwards that demarcation started from the Cretaceous period, that means by the end of Mesozoic era. Okay, and with the advent of Cenozoic era, next era, that dinosaurs, we have heard about that dinosaurs, that highly flourished dinosaurs, they are replaced by diverged different types of mammals. Mammals that are of different species, different types of mammals come and occupy during which era? During Cenozoic era. Okay, and in that Cenozoic era, during the epoch, Eocene and Oligocene epoch, uh, then during that epoch, what happens? Most of the mammals that have evolved during the Cenozoic era, they move to different habitats and ecological niches that are vacated by the extincted dinosaurs. So those mammals that are evolved, they originated the habitats and niches previously occupied by the extinct dinosaurs. Okay, so by the period of Cenozoic era, the planet is mainly occupied by mammals, diverse type of mammals. Mammals evolved and they inhabit the planet, and they occupies the habitat previously occupied by the extinct dinosaurs. So, from a common ancestor started to evolve different types of mammals. How they evolved? By accomplishing some modifications, some changes in their structure according to the requirement of its habitat or niches. So, based on that, from a common ancestor, a diverse type of mammals have evolved. So that is what is called adaptive radiation. This evolution from a single ancestral species to a variety of forms which occupy different habitats is called adaptive radiation. So this is the definition you need to give when there is such a question like what is adaptive radiation. Okay. I hope that is very clear to you. And that concept of adaptive radiation is developed by who? H. Osborne in 1898. And in this section, we are going to learn some examples of adaptive radiation in mammals. Mainly, the examples of adaptive radiations are Darwin's fringes that you might have learned in some other portions that is relating with the birds, its beaks modifications. And here we are going to learn about the limb modifications in mammals, adaptive radiation in mammals and Australian marsupials. Okay. Okay, let's start. Radiation in lip structure of mammals. Ancestral mammals. All the ancestral mammals are short-legged. They possess 5 fingers. Even if they are having limbs and 5 fingers, there is not much modification or any sort of such structures that is supportive for their locomotion. They simply have a small leg with the 5 fingers. No wide usage of that structure in the case of ancestral mammals. And these ancestral mammals are all terrestrial animals. And these terrestrial ancestral mammals give rise to the modern mammals. Okay. And adaptive radiation happen, and as a result of that radiation, specifically five different lines of evolution happen according to the requirement of habits. Where that modification happen? In the limb structure of mammals. The limb structure of ancestral mammals undergo so many modification. Mainly five different lines of modification happened according to the requirement of their habitat. So that's what we are going to see next, which are those five different lines of radiation, adaptive radiations. First, for remembering it in orderly ways, first you look over this red lettered words. Arboreal. Arboreal, we know that something relating with the means life that is adapted to live on trees. Arboreal forms. Aerial means life that is spending in air, means flying. Then after that, coming to the land, cursorial means the limbs are mostly modified to move on land. And then burrowing, and lastly aquatic habitat related modification. So let's see first arboreal. First line of radiation give rise to the arboreal forms. They have those limbs that are adapted to live in trees. Example, squirrels, sloths, monkeys. Next line of radiation is aerial, means flight flight mode of life. For supporting flight mode of life, the limbs are modified to wings. And in that line, who occupy the terminal most position? It's surely by bats, because they are true mammals that can fly. Okay. And gliding mammals also there is somewhat between this arboreal and aerial. So it's a transitional modification, gliding mammals. Examples are flying squirrels. So that's what gliding form. That's a transitional type of locomotion between climbing, that is arboreal, and aerial, that's true flight. So that flying squirrel we can see here, can see its movement. It's very interesting to watch. Its tail is actually helping to steer the direction of its movement. And as it allied to some trees, its forelimb is helping to land in some other trees without hurting its body. That we can clearly see. Okay, so that's what. So there is aerial type of radiation modification that happened to the leaf. Then next one, cursorial. Cursorial means in that forms, example, horses and antelopes, they need a strong limbs for fast movement over the surfaces of the ground. So that type of modification is the third line of radiation. Okay. And also in that line, we can include those mammals that need less strongly modified limbs. Examples for such mammals are wolves, foxes, hyenas, lions. Okay, then fourth line. Fourth line, it is of burrowing mammals or fossorial mammals. Fossorial itself means that burrowing type mammals. Examples, moles, they have modified forelimbs for digging. For digging, its forelimbs are modified, and it is poorly adapted for locomotion on ground. At the same time, pocket gophers are some others. They are expert diggers having huge nails, but they retain the structures and able to move readily on the surface of ground. So they are diggers as well as they can move easily on the surface of the ground. So their limbs are such a type modified to meet both burrowing requirement as well as locomotion on the surface of ground. Then the last and final line of radiation is regarding aquatic mammals. In the case of aquatic mammals, in what all way the limbs are modified. In the case of whales and porpoises, their limbs are adapted or modified mainly for the aquatic life. They cannot move about land. So here, in the case of whales and porpoises, limbs are strongly modified only for aquatic life. But coming to the case of seals, sea lions, and walruses, the limbs are mainly modified for aquatic life, but at the same time they can move about on the land. That is another type. And a third group also there exists there. They are accomplished swimmers, like polar bears. Their specialty is there. They are equally because locomotion in water and land both are same for them. For both purpose, its limbs are capable. In the case of this third group that includes polar bears. Okay, so these are the 5 lines of radiation. Easy to remember. Only thing we need to quote the examples also while mentioning about each lines of radiation. Uh, Next, we are going to see some modification happen to the tooth in the case of mammals. We know that with a few exceptions, most of the mammals possess heterodont type of dentition. That means our teeth are not of same structure as well as same function. They are all doing different function and all look-wise also they are different. Mainly these premolars and molars, they are modified. Mainly these teeth are modified to meet different requirements, especially based on the type of food. So let's see in the case of insectivorous type, carnivorous type, and herbivorous type mammals. In the case of insectivorous type mammals, these premolars and molars are low crowned. Low crown. Crown means this portion of this teeth. So in those one, it is not required to have a huge crowned, big crowned teeth. So in them, low crowned teeth, premolars and molars are present, and they have only few cusps because they don't need to strongly chew that much, and generally sharp pointed ends also there, suitable for crushing feeble prey. So, in the case of insectivorous type, then coming to the case of carnivorous type, these premolars and molars are high crowned, means crown is big, trenchant, shearing, means it need to tear away flesh like that. So, for that purpose, premolars and molars are high crowned teeth. And their jaws, what about their jaws? It have a little or no lateral. Coming to the case of cats, in the case of cats, there is no grinding teeth. Grinding teeth are mainly premolars and molars. The grinding teeth are absent in the case of cats, but dogs have more grinders. In the case of odontocele, that means tooth whales, there is no differentiation, tooth differentiation. All the teeth looks alike, homodont. In the case of odontocele, tooth whales. Then coming to another type of whale, that is sperm whale or physeter. In the case of those whales, there is no teeth in upper jaw, but germs of upper teeth are present. Small remnants of teeth are present. While in the case of whale bones, before that I will show you the picture of this sperm whale. So this is upper jaw usually doesn't possess any teeth. Then in the case of whale bone, this upper teeth are totally absent, and its place is taken up by baleen. You can see some horniest hard structures that is hanging from the palate. Two rows. It exists in two rows. These are the means structures that is helping to sieve and take up its prey that enters in its mouth along with the water. So balance. So these are another modifications. In the case of sperm whale, we can see the teeth are more highly modified only in the lower jaw. Upper jaw is only small. That's about in modification in carnivorous type. In the case of herbivorous type, modification incisors means the front teeth. Incisors are modified for seizing and cutting the vegetation. In the case of ruminants like cows, they are absent. Incisors are absent in upper jaw, but a horny pad is present in ruminants. And about the canine teeth means the teeth occupied in this position. It is of little importance in the case of herbivores. It is important in the case of carnivores only. But in the case of musk deer, they use these canines for defense. And the case of swine means pig. They use this canine teeth for uprooting the vegetation. Okay. And regarding the modifications of premolars and molars, they are in the case of insectivorous type mammals. Here also it is short crowned because it is usually adapted to feed succulent leaves. Succulent means water filled, water soaked leaves and twigs. It doesn't need a big teeth with a big crown. So that's a modification for premolars and molars. Um, and and in the case of myrmecophagus, myrmecophagus means ant-eating mammals. They didn't possess any teeth. Their jaws are reduced, and where it mouth opens or present at the extreme end of its tubular snout. And also they possess a highly extensible and prehensile adhesive type. For what? For eating the ants. So these are all the modification, adaptive radiation in terms of tooth in the case of mammals. So with this, we are going to finish today's section and class. Thank you. I'm an icon, man. I'm a girl about a 10. I should fuck her in a Benz.